What do you think of when I say creativity? Maybe your head went to arts and crafts. Maybe as a serial entrepreneur like I am, you were like, oh my gosh, creativity is what I live for. It's the projects, it's the inspiration at 4 a.m., it's the new thing that shows up from a wonderful conversation with a colleague. Creativity can be a lot of things. The challenge is that we don't make enough time for creativity. I've had plenty of colleagues and professionals say, I would love to do new projects. I would love to start that book. I would love to write coursework. I would love to teach as a professor, but I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth. So how do we do this? How do we carve out time for creativity? How do we make it a priority when it feels like everything else is getting in the way? Life is getting in the way. Well, Adam Grant wrote in his book Originals that carving out 20% of our work week for creativity makes all the difference. 20%. Some of the businesses out there are already doing this and they're seeing amazing results. In his book, Adam names that Google was one of the first businesses to do this, and that's how things like Gmail and Google Drive and G Suite came about. Creative time for the employees to come up with these ideas. It's fascinating and it's inspiring. So what does it look like to carve out 20% of your work week for time for creativity? For me, I'm a huge fan of paper planners. Do you have one? Can you actually X out time that you want for creative time? Do you know your limits of when is the best time to have creative time carved out? Are you a morning person where you get your best ideas at like 5, 6, 7 in the morning? Do you like the quiet hours of the morning for that reason? Are you a night owl and you get your best creative thoughts while you're up late at night? Or maybe you're someone like me who gets their best ideas while moving, walking, pacing, biking, whatever it is, allowing yourself to have those creative thoughts. So where do we carve out that time in your busy schedule? Well, you've heard from me in previous videos that if you don't schedule it, it doesn't happen. So that's why I'm a fan of paper planners. For you, now that you know the importance of creativity, you've got to make some time for it. What does 20% look like in your work week? Do you have a unique schedule where it's going to be a small chunk or multiple chunks throughout the week? By putting it in the calendar, it makes it that much more real and much more accessible to being creative. What do you imagine could happen if you carve out that 20%? Do you now find yourself in a place of restlessness, maybe boredom? I know for me, boredom and movement are the best precursors to creative thought for me. It's where I get my best ideas. But as a driven professional, boredom is not something I have very often. I have to carve out time for just like idleness to make this possible. And that might be true for you as well. So for those busy professionals who are trying to balance out their work and life and want creative energy and creative spirit to show up, I know this is a challenge. But Adam would say that from his organizational psychology perspective, it is possible by just carving out 20%. Maybe you go back to your roots and creativity starts with arts and crafts, something you enjoy that's more on that self-care lens than it is about creating something new for your business. But just by carving out that time, you're going to prevent burnout, you're going to allow creativity to show up, you're going to find joy, hopefully, in the things that you're experiencing. So I hope you'll check out Adam's book. He goes into a lot more detail as to why creativity is important. The book is Originals by Adam Grant. I know that it's made a big difference in my workflow to have that 20% each week and to really just take note of creative ideas as they pop up. So that would be one last tip for you is write things down as they show up. Put it in your phone as a note. Come back to it at another time if it's not the right time for creative processing. You don't have to pause everything to be creative in one moment. Capture it for later and know that it can come back into your 20% in your calendar.